Hi everyone, it's Tammy with Shabby Fabrics. I'm here today with a support tutorial for English Cottages. I absolutely love this quilt. This is done with a Moda collection. It's called Collections for a Cause. The sale of this fabric benefits Parkinson's disease. This is such a beautiful quilt. I love the teals. I love the soft grays. Three sisters helped design this. It's absolutely gorgeous. We could not resist that collection in coloring this beautiful quilt. If you've already reserved your spot, good job. If you have not reserved your spot yet and you're just seeing this for the first time, head to the website, click on English Cottages. You'll see it right there. Reserve your spot. We also have the thread set is available, and I have the backing is available. These are both add-on options. All of your embellishments are going to come with this. So if you are wondering, well, where am I going to get the buttons or the rosebuds or all the little charm, we've taken care of that for you. You'll have all of that. That's not a problem. You also get your embroidery floss and anything else that you need to complete your block for that month. So I'm going to show you how easy it is to put together a block. So let's do block one together, all right? So I have gotten my first block. I have block one. This is a layout diagram. This is something that we provide. At Shabby Fabrics, we really take pride in our layout diagrams. They're accurate. We test them. We check them so many times to bring you the most accurate diagram that we possibly can. So this diagram is going to show all of your shapes on it. So if you have purchased a Shabby Fabrics kit, good job. You get pre-fused laser cut applique. I love working with pre-fused laser cut applique. It makes it so much easier to put together a design like this. I'm going to talk to you about the windows. Now you can see on the quilt behind me, there are some mullions on the windows. And on the windows, I actually did this with a sewing machine. I took my sewing machine, I set it to a very narrow zigzag and black thread, and I just stitched along some lines. Well, I drew these lines with a micron pen, and I'm actually going to show you how I did that. So I'm going to turn this Lightbox on. I have a wafer 2 with me right now on set. It's really nice to fit here. I like that. My house fits on it. I like that. Okay. So I'm going to lay my window on here, right over my diagram. I'm going to take a little tiny ruler. I have a Creative Grids 1.5 by 6.5 with me. I'm just going to set this on here, on the line, and draw. Just like that. Hanging on to the bottom of this, you can now do the sidelines like this and like this. Now when I use an iron to press this, the lines are going to stay there because these are done with a micron pen and it is permanent. Now you could also do this if you were going to hand stitch this and use the embroidery floss. The embroidery floss included with your kit is black, and you just take your needle and thread. You can do a back stitch across there. And I will show you how to do a back stitch towards the end of this video. I will definitely show you that. But you could just do a back stitch if you'd rather not take the chance and stitch that with your machine. Otherwise, I suggest taking some scrap fabric, drawing some lines exactly like your window, and then practicing on your machine to get your stitch the width that you want and the density to get those stitches as close together. I would practice that stitch before I did it on my project. All right? Okay, so that's how I drew those. I'm going to use an Appliqué mat. This is by the Gypsy Quilter. This is a really nice product. Let me show you how we use this. This is going to lay right on top of my diagram, just like this. You see how I can still see my diagram through here? I love that. So this diagram has numbers on it. I'm going to follow my numbers. So number 1 is my path, and that's this shape. We can see that it does indeed fit right there. So we're going to take our laser shape. On the back is the paper. So to release the paper, I'm just going to take this edge and I'm just going to fold it slightly, and you can see how that edge just released. The paper just popped right off of that edge, and I'm just going to grab it just like this. Now I can see the shiny side right here, so I know the glue is still on my shape. I think I can move this a little bit. You can see that on camera. So you can see the glue is still on there. I'm going to turn my shape, and I'm just going to place it directly on my layout diagram, exactly where I want it. There is piece number 1 down. All right. So the rest of the shapes I have already done ahead of time. So the second shape I have is my house. Let's look at our house. Okay. Just like this. House is number 2. Now the dotted lines right here at the top of this, I think you can see that. The dotted lines are showing me where one applique is lying behind another. So I know that when I put piece 2 on here, I'm on top of the path, right? Let me set this on here a little carefully. There we go. All right, I like that. I'm just going to kind of smooth this down, just like that. So it came up to my dotted line right here. It came into the corner, so I know my shape is placed just right. Okay, let's find piece number 3. Ah, that's my scallop right here across the top. Okay, here's my scallop, and that's going to go on just like this. All right, piece number 4 is my chimney. You get the idea. So I'm going to go ahead and go through and place all these, and when I get done, we're going to take it to the pressing mat and we're going to press it down. All right, so we have all of our shapes down. So I'm going to pick up my mat just like this. You see how my shapes kind of stay there? They're not sliding around. There's kind of a tackiness to this Appliqué mat that I like. I'm going to set it on here. Now, very important, I am turning my iron down to medium heat. You do not want to use high heat on applique like this. You want to use medium heat. So turn your iron down. Here we go. And I'm going to put my door down, right? So we're just going to hold our iron in place straight down for about a count of 8 seconds. All right, so once we get that down, we're going to let it cool. And I'm just going to kind of wave it around in the breeze a little bit here. I want this to cool down before I touch that applique. All right, so in the meantime, I'm going to set that aside for a second. So now let's change diagrams because we have a second element to this block. This is the second element. We have a heart flower in a flower pot, and we also have 3 heart blocks here, okay? So you get all your fabric to make these. So let's go ahead and assemble our flower block exactly the same way we did this. I'm going to use a smaller Appliqué mat for this. I just need the little guy today on this. All right, so again as before, I have pulled my paper off of all of these shapes. So I'm going to get these all down and then we'll press it. Okay, so I've got my little flower in the pot done. So I'm just going to pick this up, same as before, and I'm going to fuse him down. Fuse him to each other here. Lock them all in. Okay, we're going to set that aside. Now I'm going to get my background out. Let's set our Lightbox aside. All right, so here's my background. So my background, I have left this on my wool pressing mat. We're going to pretend like I'm at a big ironing board because I know you've got a big ironing board at home, right? Okay. So the background, I have pieced this ahead of time, and I want to show you I did press this seam open. The reason I did that is to distribute the bulk of that seam evenly over this area. Because the house is on top of it, I wanted this seam to lay as flat as possible. All right? So let's grab our house that we already did. So to release it from this mat, I'm just going to gently peel from the top all the way down, very gently. How cool is that? Look at that, we have a giant appliqué. Awesome, I love that. All right, so I have my house. Now my path is sewn into my seam allowance. That's a great way to place your house. Now I know he's sitting exactly as high as he's supposed to because this is sewn into the seam allowance, all right? Put it down a little bit. I think I'm going to have to adjust him over just a little bit because now I have my potted heart flower. Let's peel him off of there. Great, everything's stuck just like I wanted. How cute is that? All right, let's take a look at our diagram here. This looks good to me. We have our house. Slide him over a little bit more. This is all up to you where you exactly place this. Let's pull it down a little. I think that looks really good. I like it there. This is nice and straight. My path is even at the bottom. Okay, we are ready to fuse him down. Same as before, about 8 seconds is what you're going to hold your iron straight down. All right, now let's complete block 1. So block 1 has 3 hearts that I did ahead of time. I also press these seams open. I'm going to turn this over and show you. I press those seams open. So now you would stitch these two together just like this. You'd stitch those together, 1/4 inch, and then now I would take this and I would applique this down with the stitch of your choice. So we did use this applique thread set here. We used those exact colors to stitch this down. We used a Schmetz Super Non-Stick 8012. I love the Super Non-Stick because it goes right through that fusible in the applique and it doesn't gum up my needle. We use those all the time in the sewing studio upstairs. So we stitched around these. You can do a blanket stitch, you can do a straight stitch, you can do whatever your favorite stitch is. You could do a zigzag stitch or a satin stitch, whatever you like. You just have fun with it. This is your quilt, have fun with it. Okay? So you'd stitch all your shapes down and then you're gonna wanna set this aside and wait for block 2. All right? When block 2 gets here, then you get to do it again. I should also mention that the button that goes on the doorknob, you're going to wait till the very end to actually attach that embellishment. You're not going to do that now because a quilter could hit that and run over that button. So you don't want to do that now. You're going to hold off and put your buttons on in the very end after it's completely quilted. All right? So now I'm going to move on to the next part of how do I make the pinwheels. Let's take a look at the pinwheels. They're right here in this quilt. These pinwheels, one of them has directional words. So I'm going to clean off my table and I'm going to come back and show you how to do that. All right, I'm back and we are going to make some pinwheels. Pinwheels are one of my favorite pieced block to make. I just love a cute little pinwheel. All the little points come together in the center. They're so cute. If you struggle with pinwheels and points, have I got some good news for you. I have a foolproof way of making perfect pinwheels. All right, let's take a look at these. So the blue pinwheels are fairly straightforward. We used star singles. This is a 2-inch finished block, so it's a 2-inch star singles. And we simply layered your 2 pieces of fabric, right sides together, like this. You're going to pin your star singles to this. Four pins is about all I put in them, just like this. And then now I'm just going to sew. It's sew by number. I did shorten my stitch length on this. We usually sew with about a 2.35 or so on our setting on our sewing machines. This one, I put it all the way down to 1.65. So I drastically reduced the number of stitches that I'm putting in. Yes, so that there's more stitches, right? The lower the number, the more stitches you're putting in. You want tinier stitches so that you're perforating the paper. It's going to make it much easier in the end to take them apart, all right? So you start here with number 1, follow the arrows, you hit the black dot, stop. Put your needle down, turn, all the way up number 2 to 3, 4, so on and so forth, all through the block till you get to number 8, and I sew right off, just like that. So let's take a look at what this does. So I'm going to grab my pins. I'm going to grab a ruler. All right, let's trim this out. How do I use a star single? Well, take a look at what we did here. See, we've created a half square triangle, but it's not the right size because we still need to trim it and cut it down, all right? So I'm going to use a Creative Grids spinning mat. I love this mat. It spins very easily and very smoothly. This is a Creative Grids 2.5 by 12.5. I just need something that I can line up right along that straight edge and cut just like that. Let's spin the mat and keep cutting all the way around this block. Now I need to trim this here and here, and then we will trim up our half square triangles. All right, so let's do it this way. Let's cut it in half like this. As I'm cutting this, I'm going to explain to you why star singles are magic. The lettering is directional in this block right here. As you are sewing this, you're probably thinking, how is the lettering going to actually come out right? Because you're turning this block all around. These are all different angles, right? Well, star singles are just magic. I'm going to show you what happens when you use a directional fabric with star singles. Let me get this last one cut. All right, so the next thing I need to do is I'm going to take the paper off. To do that, I'm just going to crease it. I'm going to take my thumbnail and hold it right here at the very top, right next to that stitch. And I'm just going to pull it off of there, just like that. You see how easily that paper just comes straight off? There we go. I'm going to do a few of these. I need 4 to show you how this comes together. And we're going to press these towards the dark gray. So that would be the darker of the two fabrics. The teal one, I press that one towards the teal. think I have a good chance of getting what I need if I do 5 of these. I didn't get them mixed up. Okay. Here we go. Let's press these out. And turn my iron up to high. All right. So I'm pressing my seam to set it. Then I'm pressing this open. Set your seam, and now press this up, just like that. So my seam allowance automatically goes toward my dark gray. All right, here we go. So I'm going to take my little tiny scissors. These are Karen K. Beckley's. These are really nice. If you don't have a pair of these, you might consider picking these up. They are super sharp. They have a serrated edge. I love these little scissors. They come in different sizes and we have them all. I love them. I'm just going to snip these little points off really quick. I prefer to use a pair of scissors to do this versus a rotary cutter. That rotary blade, boy, you got your fingers right there. I'm not real confident just freewheeling with a rotary blade. I don't normally do that. I prefer a little pair of snippy scissors like this. These are really sharp. Okay, so I have all my half square triangles. Now I'm going to lay these all out the same way, and you're going to see how the lettering's upside down on this one. See, it's turned sideways on this one. And sideways on this one. I did, I got 2 of the same one. I figured I was repeating one. Okay, so now when I go to lay this together, let's take a look. Ah, this one goes here. These letters are right side up. Nope, that's upside down. There we go. You see how the letters are right side up here? The words are right side up. You have a picture in your pattern to follow, because you, of course, will not have a sample to follow. I'm following this, but there is a picture in the pattern. Look at that. Now that is magic. Look at all my words. They're all right side up. I love that. I can now sleep at night. All my directional fabric is going the right way, right? How cool is that? You're going to make 2 pinwheels out of your gray. Perfect. All right, so now let's put these together. All right, so because we press these both to the dark gray, when I turn these on top of each other like this, these 2 seams are going to nest together right here at the bottom. Perfect. I'm going to take a pin. I love these extra fine patchwork pins for this. They're very fine pins by Clover. They are my favorites. Right in. Whoop, got a thread on there. All right, so I am pinning just on the other side of this seam allowance right here. That is going to lock those seams together. So I'm going to start sewing here and all the way to the bottom. All right, I'm going to pin 2 of them while I'm at it. We're going to go to the machine. We're actually going to assemble this. All right, this one I'm going to start at the top and go towards the bottom. Here we go. As I come over here, I have a guideline seam guide attached to my machine. And we use the seam setter first, set this on here at a perfect 1/4 inch. If you struggle with a 1/4 inch, this is a must. This is amazing. We use these upstairs in the sewing room all the time. All right, so let's go ahead and stitch this. All right, let's get them cut apart. Now let's think about how to press this. Oh, look at that point. That is perfect. Let's make sure this one is too. Yep, these are both perfect points. They nested just like I wanted them to. All right, so let's heat that seam up. And I'm actually going to press this open. I'm going to turn this over. I'm going to set my iron on that seam and just follow it up, just like that. This little Panasonic iron works really well for that. Let's set our seam and turn it over, just like that. That is beautiful. Okay. All right, now I'm going to immediately lay this back down the right way. You would think you can't put it together wrong, but guess what? You really can. That was a Tammy moment. It's like, what am I doing? You can always put a block together wrong, always. You get confused when you pick it up, you pin it, you go to the machine and you're like, was I sewing the right side, the left side? What side am I sewing again? Double check. Just double check it before you go. All right, so I lay it back down the way it goes. I'm going to fold this on top of it, just like this. Now again, this seam and this seam are going to nest together. Also, I can pull this apart. There's a thread there. Let me move that. I can pull this apart. I think the camera can see this. How my nested seams or my open seams are stacked right on top of each other. All right, and I'm going to put a pin right along that seam allowance to hold them right there. Now I can feel these two seams are nested together. So I'm going to put another pin right here. Okay? I'm going to add another pin at the end of this seam because I know that these two corners are going to try to walk away from each other. By the time I get down there, they're going to be moving away from each other. It's like, no, you need to stay right there. Let's go back onto the other side now. I'm going to nest this seam together and pin this just like that. All right, so I'm going to start sewing here, across, and over. So I'm going to show you, let me turn this over, you can actually see it better on this side. Right here, there's a little perfect two little triangles. You're going to sew on directly at the bottom of them should be 1/4 of an inch. If you use your seam guide, you are exactly 1/4 of an inch right here from here to here. That will turn out perfect points. All right, so let's go sew that. All right, let's see how we did. Let's take these pins out. Oh, see, I'm throwing pins everywhere. That's why I have a magnetic pin cushion. I can just quickly pick up pins. They go right back where they belong. All right, let's take a look at this. Oh my goodness, look how perfect that is. All my points are exactly where I want them. That is great. So I'm going to heat this seam up. And now I'm going to press this seam open. Just like this. You use a little bit of steam on it once you get it to this point. I wouldn't use a lot of steam when you're pressing with triangles because remember that is a bias seam right across there. So you're going to want to be a little careful with bias. We did use magic sizing on all of this fabric before we cut our blocks. I do use magic sizing quite a lot. I love magic sizing. There we go. There's a perfect pinwheel. All right, so now let's talk about what happens if I don't have star singles. How am I going to accomplish this? I got your back here. So in our directions, they say to take your block and cut this in half twice to make squares. All right, so I have layered these two together. See that? They're just layered together. It does not matter which way your lettering goes. Mine is right side up. It does not matter here, okay? It'll matter in a minute, but not right now. All right, so I'm going to cut this. I know this block is 6.5 inches. I'm going to cut it at 3 1/4. I'm going to spin this and cut it again at 3 1/4. just like that. Okay. Now let's talk about lettering and directional stuff. So I'm going to draw a line on the back of this. But I'm actually going to draw the line on this lettering, okay? So when I turn these over, you're going to lay them out so your lettering is correct. See that? Okay, I have 4 of them right here, and I think the camera can show you how this lettering is all right side up. It's just turned over upside down, right? My lettering's all right side up. It's all going the same direction. All right, so I'm going to take my ruler, leaving these blocks just like this so you don't get confused, and I'm going to draw a line from the upper left corner to the lower right on 2 of them. Just like that. Okay? Now I'm going to take 2 of them and I'm going to do the opposite. All right? So now I'm going to go from the upper right corner to the lower left. One and 2. Very important that you do it like this. So I have 2 one way and 2 the opposite way. And my lettering, you can see, is all going the same direction. Okay? Let's layer these together. We're going to sew a 1/4 inch on either side. I just need a couple of these. I don't need all of them. Just do 2 of them. 1/4 inch on either side. Now, how do I get that perfect 1/4 inch on either side? Well, I prefer sewing on the line versus just guessing where's a 1/4 inch on the other side of this line. Or I can use the tape by Cluck Cluck Sew. It is a diagonal seam tape, and I actually have that installed on this machine on the table. Let me show that to you. Let's go take a look at that. Because then I'm only drawing a single line. Let's take a look at that. So we're here at the machine, and this is the Cluck Cluck Sew tape, and you can see the red line is lining up exactly with my needle. So if I wanted to sew on this line, I would simply line this up with my needle right here, and I would line up this point at the bottom on the red line, and I would sew exactly down the center of this square. Well, I don't want to do that. I need to sew a 1/4 inch on either side. So you see this 1/4 inch mark over here? I'm just going to move this over and sew a 1/4 inch on the other side of that line using this 1/4 inch mark. You do the same thing on the other side like this. You see that? So now my point is a 1/4 inch over. I know that this red mark is where I'm going to be sewing. I'm just going to move. As I'm sewing, you're going to see this track right up along that line. Let me show you. Let's do this. There we go. So you can see how that worked almost to the very end, and I just had to sew a little tiny bit without having that. So let's do the other side. Let's do it again. There we go. So we're back. I have sewn on 1/4 inch on both sides using the Cluck Cluck Sew diagonal seam tape. Now, if you don't have that either, I have another tool to show you. This is the Creative Grids Seam Guide. This is a great tool. This one will allow you to sew on a line. Now you're not guessing where a 1/4 inch is. Now you're not trying to track a square along. If that's too much for you, I get that. So let's take this black line away for a second and show you how this one works. So this tool I'm simply going to lay this on my square and I'm going to slide it up and down until I can see a point. Let me turn this on. Until I see a point right here and right here. And I slide this ruler back and forth. You see, I could set it on here like this, but these words are here. I have no idea where that point is. I don't know if I'm coming point to point or not. So I just simply slide this up and back until I find, there we go. I like that right there. I have a point here and a point here. I know right now I'm exactly where this ruler is supposed to be. So I'm going to hang on to it. I'm going to draw a line on this side. It is exactly, let's see if everything will just kind of spin around with me here. Ha! It worked. We're going to go this way. All right. Just like that. Okay? This ruler is exactly a ½ inch wide. So I'm a1/4 inch on either side of the center of my square. All right? So I would simply put this together just like this and then sew on the lines. Okay? Then cut it in the center. So let's go ahead and cut the two that we've already sewn in the center. Just like that. All right, let's take them to the iron. And now again, I'm going to iron them to the dark gray. Let's press to the dark gray. Set your seam. See, I can see already my lettering is turning different directions, which is exactly what we want. All 4 of these should be different if we have done it correctly. All right, let's check this out. I have one that goes like this. Yep, that one goes sideways. This one's upside down. Yay! See how that worked? Perfect. That's what you want. Now, I'm going to take a 2½ inch square ruler because we were using a star singles, which is a 2-inch finished, would be 2½ inches unfinished. So I'm going to take a 2½ inch Creative Grids ruler. I'm going to use the black diagonal line right here. I'm going to align that with this diagonal seam, just like this. And we're going to cut all the way around it. Here, the spinning mat is going to shine yet again. Spinning mat is an invaluable tool. They're an investment, but I'll tell you, they last for a very long time. I love my spinning mat. There we go. You trim these up and put them together, and you will have a pinwheel that will work. Let me go ahead and lay these out. Here I go. I'm using my, let's use this as a guide. And just start turning these around. This is the bottom one. This is the top one. I'm just going to lay these in place without trimming them, just so you can see it really does work. The other thing that you could do is you could put all 4 of these together and then trim that pinwheel in the end. Okay? You could do that as well. You can trim it to 4½ by 4½. It'd be the same thing if you don't want to do your trimming on each one of your little half square triangles. Okay? All right. That is pinwheels. Okay, so here we are with our block. I'm going to show you how to do a back stitch by hand in this mullion. Let's say you don't want to do this by machine. I understand that. No problem. So the first thing I did is I took a Richard Hemming embroidery needle. I have 2 strands of floss here. I knotted the end, and now I've not sewn these appliques down. Remember, I just made this block a few minutes ago. I did not take the time to sew this down. So your quilt would already be, your block should already be stitched down before you start messing with these appliques because they could pop off of there. So I'm going to take some Thread Magic and run my thread through this just like that. And that's just going to be a thread conditioner. Thread magic. I love it. It kind of makes that thread behave itself. It takes the twist out of thread. Just wonderful stuff. Okay, so let's come up on the edge of our house here, or on the edge of our window. I'm going to come up just a little bit ahead of the edge right here. Okay, and then I'm going to go down right on the edge like this. This is a back stitch. Now I'm going to come up in front of that stitch like this. And now I'm going to go back down right where I came up to make the first stitch. So I'm going to hit that mark right there. See how that just laid it straight in there? Perfect. Let's do one more. I'm going to come up in front of it like this. And I'm going to go back down where this one came up. If I hit exactly in the center of that stitch, like this, when they lay together, they create a straight line. All right, you continue all the way across and do your mullions like that. Now, sometimes stitching through appliques can be a little bit difficult because you're stitching through a couple of layers of fusible here. I want to show you these amazing product by the Gypsy Quilter. It's called a Nailed It thimble. It's an open thimble. You see how the back is open? This will go on my index finger like this to push a needle through. I love that. I love that it's open. My nails don't get in there. This one is smaller. The purple one is a size medium. The blue one is a size large. Good news, you don't have to decide which one you want to buy. They come in a pack of 2, a blue one and a purple one. So you have each size when you buy these. These are an amazing product. I highly recommend these thimbles for sewing through fusible like this when you're going to hand stitch that. Okay, so let's set this aside and let's grab just a piece of fabric. I want to show you a French knot. That's in the quilt. We've got a French knot in the bird's eyes. So I'm going to come up from the back. I'm going to wrap my needle 3 times. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to set my needle right back, right where I came up, and slide these stitches all the way down to the bottom, just like this. Okay? Pick it up. Now when I pull this through, I need to hold on to this tail right here, because if I don't, it's going to start getting all twisted around in there and make a big mess. So I'm holding this whole thing, still holding that thread, still hanging on to it, and let it go at the very end. And you have a perfect French knot, just like that. Okay, so another element in this quilt that I want to talk to you about is the beaded necklace on the bird. So to do that, you're going to come up from the bottom and you're going to grab a bead. Okay, I'm going to put them in a little dish and just grab one, just like this. Make sure it goes through the eye of your needle. Test that before you get here. Because if you're using a needle with a large eye, this won't go through. You're going to need to switch to a smaller needle. This is a Richard Hemming embroidery needle, and it goes right through. So if I was on the bird's neck, I would put one bead on, and then I'm actually going to take my needle and drop it about I'd say a 1/16 of an inch away. And set that bead right in there. See that? Now you should use white thread. I'm using black thread so that this highlights what I'm doing with the thread. If I use white thread, you'd never be able to see it on camera. To put your next bead on, You come up about 1/8 of an inch away from that, because remember your beads are big, right? They're not little tiny. You don't want to come up right next to it. And I'm going to go back down. See, it just sets that second bead right there. Now, if I had white thread, you would never see these black stitches. But I want you to see where my stitches are on these beads. All right, you just continue like that all the way around the bird, all around his little necklace, her necklace, I should say. All right, and the last thing we're going to put on there, so cute, these little charms made with love. How cute is that? I love it. So it just comes up, and I'm just going to tack this on. Just like that. You can go through it a couple of times if you want to. Make sure it stays on there. Now, I would never put this quilt in the washing machine with all of these embellishments on here. I do want to say that. There we go. Just like that. Make sure that that's attached. All right. Okay, the last embellishment that we have, just going to leave that there, is a ribbon rose. And these little ribbon rosettes, aren't they beautiful? I love that. These go in the hearts. So we're just going to take a little dab of glue like this. This is Roxanne's Glue Basting Glue. I'm just going to set this heart on this rosette on here just to hang on to it, because these can be, you see how it tries to run away on me? These can be a little bit difficult to get on there. So I found that by attaching that with some basting glue, let that set for a minute, it was easier for me to go on and stitch that. But I don't want to come up. I did not come up all the way into the center of the rosette. I just want to come up into the back of it. So again, I would definitely use white thread when I'm doing this. I'm only doing this with black so that you can see exactly what I am doing. I think it's important you be able to see my stitches. So I'm just going to come up like this. I'm just going to tack that rose right down. Oop. Thread's wrapping around my rose's leaf. There we go. See how I just tack that down right there? Hang on to your rose, move to the other side, and repeat. So I'm coming up right here in that rose. See, I'm coming up behind it, like this, and I'm going to go right back down again. So cute. I just love these little touches. See? Beautiful. That's how we attach the ribbon roses. You can go around and tack it all the way around, but again, use white thread so you're not going to see your stitches. Thank you so much for joining me today. I've taken you through all of the different elements that make up the English Cottages Block of the Month. Have fun making your quilt. Please post them on our Facebook page or in your Facebook group, and the girls will definitely make sure I get to see them. I can't wait to see your quilts. We'll see you next time on a Shabby Fabrics tutorial.